All right. So here's the way the four stages I see, and I think this is what Teresa is talking about as well, evoke our spiritual journey. When the butterfly first lays her eggs, she wants to lay them in the most optimal possible place, the most nourishing environment, so that when the egg hatches, the caterpillar has food. So I think about our spiritual aspirations, our desires for ourselves and for the world. We don't want to just fling them anywhere. We want to lay the eggs of our dreams, of our prayers, of our visions in fertile ground, like maybe if you want to say lay the seeds in fertile ground, but we're talking about eggs here. You want to lay your eggs in a place where when the prayers hatch, they can feed in a hospitable environment. So the butterfly lays her eggs, the eggs hatch, and the caterpillar has one desire: to eat. One driving need. If the driving need of the mama butterfly was to lay her eggs in a safe and fertile and nourishing space, the driving need of the caterpillar is to consume nourishment. And so it does. It eats and eats. I think it says that a caterpillar eats 10 times its body weight and sheds its skin, I don't know, maybe also 10 times in a short period of time. There's a sort of voracious period. And I think of this as the early stages of the spiritual path, when we can't get enough of the Dharma. We're consuming Dharma at every turn. Does anyone not know what I mean by Dharma? Jim also uses that word. It's a Buddhist term for teachings, spiritual teachings. So we're reading every spiritual book we can get our hands on, from Jim Finley to Mirabai Starr to, I don't know, Madonna's probably written something about Kabbalah, I don't know, but whatever we can get, we're there. We watch the videos on YouTube or wherever. We purchase the workshops and symposia, not even just in the beginning, often just all along, because we're getting hungry again. We're needing nourishment all along, actually, all along. And the teachings, we begin to find the teachings everywhere. We're looking for it, we're hungry for it. We're on fire for God and for truth, and then we begin to see it wherever we look. Synchronicities and serendipities, and you think about someone and they appear. And Mirabai talks about something in the afternoon, and then the very next morning, someone at the Allsups or the 7-Eleven, overhear them talking about the very same thing, that kind of thing. Those magical, mystical moments when the universe seems to be reflecting back to you your desire to wake up. So that's the caterpillar phase. And even though it feels like it will never end, there comes a time, and this is the dark night of the soul that I spoke about yesterday, where you're just not feeling it anymore, where the high is no longer happening. You can sit with Krishnadas or Deva Premal or listen to the music of Gustavo Santaolalla or Leela Downs that used to just blow your heart open, and it's just nothing. It's dry. It's just dry. None of the teachings are watering your heart anymore. That's not a problem, although it may feel like it. It's just that the caterpillar is full, finally. Can't grow anymore, can't shed any more skin. It's ready for the next phase. And what's the next phase? Crucifixion. Annihilation. And I love that the caterpillar itself spins its own cocoon. Spins the chrysalis in which it will climb and die. And so the caterpillar creates, or the silkworm, this chrysalis around itself and proceeds to come undone all the way, not a little bit undone, but completely. So you know the term imaginal cells? This is the puddle that the caterpillar turns into. It's a soup of single cells called imaginal cells. And the imaginal part is that they have sentience, these cells. They have consciousness, and they're communicating with each other. At first, they're actually in opposition to each other. All these individual cells in this goopy, soupy thing that the caterpillar has melted into are competing to try to see who can actually survive the annihilation. And then none of them can, not individually, but collectively, they create a new entity. And every one of those cells has within it all the information to become one complete entity. They all have encoded in their DNA, I guess, the scientists can correct me, the antenna, the stomach, the wings, the genitalia, all the parts of the butterfly to be. It's like a hologram. Not only that, I heard this part recently. A couple of years ago, I was teaching a Day of the Dead gathering in Mexico, and a woman from Mexico, a young woman from Mexico, told me that not only do all the cells communicate with each other about what the butterfly is to become, but that the cells of the butterflies that have died, that are sort of scattered around the landscape, and I was in a place where the monarchs come. It was one of those areas outside of Mexico City in the mountains that is a monarch butterfly destination. All the dead wings and the other parts of the butterflies who are no more, the ancestors, begin to vibrate invisibly and communicate to the imaginal cells of each of the caterpillars that are dissolving in the cocoon, kind of whispering in their incipient butterfly ears what they are to do, how they are to navigate this melting and remaking. Isn't that cool? I don't know if it's I haven't checked the science yet, but I'll buy it because it's beautiful, and I like beauty more than truth. Beauty is truth. Dostoevsky said that too. You're right. So, at last, the butterfly emerges from her dark night of the soul when she cannot know anything. I also think of, as did John of the Cross, that in those dark nights of our souls, in that womb-like darkness where everything comes undone, we're like Jonah, suspended in the belly of the great fish. And Jonah, John of the Cross reminds us, didn't have an up or a down or a side or a side. Jonah didn't feel there was no place to hold on, no stability, no point of reference. And this is absolutely necessary. You can't kind of dissolve in the chrysalis if you're going to become a butterfly. It is a complete surrender, but surrender implies an element of agency. And at that point, there is none. Except insofar as there is a part of you that can always bear witness to your undoing, to your dissolving, to your deconstruction, and say, wow, I seem to be utterly dissolving. Isn't that interesting? I think there is always that part of us available. Ram Dass called it the witness, my lifelong teacher, the witness. Isn't that interesting? I am coming undone. So when the butterfly emerges, as I said, at first, the wings are damp and rumpled and crumpled, and needs to try to kind of stand a little wobbly on the twig that it was born onto, and dry its wings in the sun, and begin to stretch and test the air. And even then, when the butterfly lifts off, it's restless. First it's clumsy, and then when it gets over that awkwardness, it's restless. It's finds a little branch to, after it's flown a little, to land on, and a flower over there, and a rock over yonder. And it never really can rest. The butterfly's impulse is to fly and to explore and to find its way through the sky, through the gardens, through the landscape, this new landscape. And Teresa says, she comes back to the butterfly later in the interior castle, and she says, let's check in with our little butterfly. She's very restless. Any of you familiar with Richard Rohr? Probably all of you. Okay. So I gave this, when I first translated the interior castle, I gave the book to Richard, and he opened it later that night in his cell. He calls his little house his cell. And he opened it to that place where the butterfly couldn't find a place to land, where she's restless, where she'll always be restless. And he said his eyes filled with tears. And he's a stoic guy, you know. But he said it just made him feel like weeping. Like, yeah, even when we've been transformed, we can never really rest. This life is so fleeting, and there's more transformation to come. But the last thing I want to leave you with this metaphor is that what drives the butterfly, what draws the butterfly, is love. The butterfly is seeking the beloved. That's all she wants, is union with the beloved. The butterfly wants to mate. That's her driving impulse. So once she's emerged from the cocoon and begins to fly through the world, she's flying in search of her beloved. I mean, that's the science too. But what a beautiful, apt metaphor for our spiritual journey. The fire of desire for the beloved is what drives us. Even though once we have union, guess what? Annihilation. The subject-object distinction, lover and beloved, dissolves in union, in oneing. There is no lover left to enjoy union with the beloved. There is only love. So when the butterfly finds her mate, they dissolve into each other, and they are one. And then, according to Teresa, in the seventh dwelling of the interior castle, when the soul finally gets to the very center of her being, where the Holy One resides and has been beckoning her all along, not out into the light, but deeper and deeper into the darkness. That's where the union takes place, in the center of our being. Well, the paradox is, actually, Teresa says, that the light grows brighter the deeper we go inside ourselves, the closer we come to the beloved. But once union happens, she says, it's like the soul is a drop of water that merges into the boundless sea of love that is God. And all individuality melts, disappears for a moment. And then separation happens again. And at that point, she says, the soul is in God, and God is in the soul, and no one can ever separate them again. And for the rest of this brief incarnation, the only thing that makes sense is to be of service. To be of service. That's what she says at the end of the interior castle. And so the butterfly lays her eggs, and the cycle begins again. And so maybe we are all butterflies again and again. It's the same central you that is transformed through all of these stages of metamorphosis over and over. But each time we include, in the kind of language of Ken Wilber, we include the wisdom we have gained from the previous metamorphosis, and we just grow larger. Include and transcend, and remember and forget. So I'm going to end with a very short reading, and then we'll take a little break. This is at the end of Ordinary Mysticism. Those of you who like page numbers, it's page 214. And this is my prayer for you, for all of you. Rain of yes. All my life, I have been enamored of the God-intoxicated ones, those rarefied souls who slip into ecstatic states and spontaneously utter poetry, the ones who exude deep stillness, embody equanimity, listen more than they speak, the initiated and the ordained, the monastics. You could recognize them by their white robes or their headscarves, the prayer beads wound around their wrists, and the scriptures from which they quote. If a talk show host wanted to interview a mystic, these are the exemplars they would invite into the studio. I wanted to be one of them until I didn't. I want you not to want that as well. Instead, I want you to want exactly what you have, a real life with its clogged plumbing and flight delays, its cool sheets and steaming showers, its free-floating anxieties and spontaneous foot rubs. Girls' night out, Monday night football, the death of your favorite uncle, and the birth of your first grandchild. Comings out and turnings in, your crises of faith. I want you to want to be exactly who you are, a true human person, doing their best to show up for this fleeting life with a measure of grace, with kindness and a sense of humor, with curiosity and a willingness to not have all the answers, with reverence for life. You do not need to chant all night in a temple in the Himalayas. You don't have to be the newest incarnation of Mary Magdalene. It is not necessary to read or write spiritual books. You are not required to know the difference between Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism or memorize the Beatitudes. All you have to do to walk the path of the ordinary mystic is to cultivate a gaze of wonder and step onto the road. Keep walking, rest up, and walk again. Fall down, get up, walk on. Pay attention to the landscape, to the ways it changes and the ways it stays the same. Be alert to surprises and turn with the turning of the seasons. Honor your body, train your mind, and keep your heart open against all odds. Say yes to what is, even when it is uncomfortable or embarrassing or heartbreaking. Hurl your handful of yes into the treetops, and then lift your face as the rain of yes drops its grace all over you, all around you, and settles deep inside you. Thank you.